best stories never really belong to their authors, do they? They belong to the ones who carry them forward. So, we podcast.
Welcome back to Life's Learning Curve. Storytelling. Our own life stories, full of humor, some cringeworthy moments, and at times, a grander purpose. Did you ever wonder just how you became the person you are today? That's us. Storytelling. When you write, always write like it matters. Here's our host, Paul Hart.
Today's episode involves a regular, everyday kind of guy. The guy who forgets his coffee on the car roof and wears mismatched socks, purely by accident. But beneath that everyday chaos, he has a gift. It's storytelling. From childhood, he didn't just write stories, he saw them. He saw them in his head. And along the way, he learned a truth. It was a terrible truth, but just to him. If you share what you create, you no longer own that thing you create. It belongs to the masses if they embrace it. It's like writing a song from the heart only to see that it becomes everyone's favorite. People love it so much that it doesn't even feel like it's your song anymore. But something much larger is gained overall. And let's find out. Sebastian.
Here we go.
Life's Learning Curve, episode 91. Because of Mr. Benson, a teacher's farewell. Stand by.
He had spent years weaving them, crafting each story with care, folding meaning into them like a hidden note tucked inside a book somewhere. Now this guy in our episode today, we're going to call him Mr. Benson. He was a teacher. He told these stories in quiet classrooms and circles of eager young faces watching their eyes light up as his words took shape in their minds. In the rhythm of his voice, he taught his students something most adults had long forgotten: how to make life itself feel like a story worth telling. Now, it wasn't just about crafting a good tale. It was about seeing the story already there. How do you make a moment unforgettable? He would ask, pacing their desks. You see, it's not about grand adventures or shocking twists. It's about noticing, paying attention. Mr. Benson showed them how to slow time in their writing. Not with magic, but with observation. So kids, did you ever see the light and how it catches the dust in the afternoon? Ever been just sitting there in front of a window and you see the dust moving around? Ever seen that? He'd say, running his hand across the windowsill. Or the way your mother sighs after a long day. Or how your best friend laughs with his whole body. Can you see that in your head? Yeah. He'd make them pause and think for a second. Breathe. Observe. Stretch that moment. See, what I'm saying is don't just write, I was happy. Tell me what happy felt like. Did it feel like wind rushing past your face on a swing, or like soda bubbles fizzing in your throat? Like a secret so cool you could barely hold it in? You ever had that? Well, the students did listen, wide-eyed and their pencils scratching furiously against the page. They were used to thinking their lives were just ordinary, like nothing happened. A regular, everyday day. Until this guy, Mr. Benson, showed them how extraordinary the details were, and as they wrote, they began to see it too. Their lives weren't small. Their days weren't forgettable. They just had never been taught how to look. Now, let's rewind quite a few years back, many years before he was a teacher, before Mr. Benson had become Mr. Benson, before anyone was quoting his storytelling methods in their writings and, let's be honest, totally misinterpreting them.
That is incorrect.
There was just him. He was a boy who lived and loved to live in his stories. As a kid, he had two great loves. Number one, storytelling. Number two, avoiding vegetables. As a child, he liked playing with words, not just as something to read, but as something to see. The world outside? Math? I guess overrated, he thought. at a young age, his notebooks were filled with half-written stories, beginnings that burned bright, but, they never quite ended. Kind of like that TV show everyone swore they were going to finish watching, but they never did. See, he wasn't writing for an audience. He was writing to understand life itself, to him. Like most of us in our youth, we'd lie in bed at night staring at the ceiling. Remember doing that? Replaying the day's events. But young Mr. Benson, in those days, turned them into something more. If he had lost his school of pencil, he'd think about it. A stolen artifact from a young wizard. A quiet afternoon with his dad. A solemn scene of an aging king and his last remaining son. The way the rain rolled down the window. The sky crying for reasons only he understood. It was never about making things up. It was just his imagination. It was about seeing what was already there, just more deeply, with more meaning, more clearly to him. It was magic. It was his magic. Until, of course, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
Okay, fast forward a few decades, and our guy now, Mr. Benson, is now a full-grown adult, which mostly means he has more responsibilities, and let's face it, better snack options away from vegetables for him at least. At first he was proud. How could he not be? He'd watched as his students, as a young teacher, carried his lessons beyond the classroom. Their stories spread, first among the parents, then in things like writing competitions in the school district, then school newspapers, and his way of storytelling became the way. He could hear his phrases echoed in reports and creative writing and in speeches and in student writing workshops led by other people. But it felt odd to Mr. Benson. One day, as he walked down his school's hallway where posters were lined up on the walls celebrating student achievements, Mr. Benson heard a student practicing a speech in a nearby classroom. Not his classroom, but another one near.
What?
The student said,
"And in that moment, I realized happiness wasn't just a feeling. It was the smell of fresh-cut grass on a summer day, the way my grandmother hummed when she cooked, the sound of my best friend's laugh. Sharp and unexpected, like the snap of a twig I stepped on."
Now Mr. Benson tilted his head, intrigued, listening. Another student said,
"Wow, that was so good. How did you do that?"
"I don't know. I just remembered what Mr. B always says. Don't just write what happens. Write how it feels."
That's right.
Then down the road came the praise, the awards, the articles, calling him an outstanding teacher, a man with an extraordinary life. Which was funny because honestly, Mr. Benson knew that his life didn't feel that extraordinary. He was still the guy who forgot where he put his keys half the time.
Where are my keys?
His lunch, his socks, his shoes. One day, Mr. Benson walked down the school hallway on a break, stepping into the staff room, where a fellow teacher, Jan Torres, was reading something on her laptop.
"Well, look at this. Again.
Again, what?
Let me show you."
She turned the laptop around to show a local education magazine on the screen of her laptop.
"You? Again. They just named you Innovator of the Year in our school district.
What?
Mr. Benson, the extraordinary teacher who transforms young lives through storytelling."
Come on, Jan.
No, seriously, they called you a visionary. A once-in-a-generation educator. A storytelling savant.
Oh, Jan, do they know I lost my keys again this morning? Twice?
Well, clearly, you're so brilliant, according to this, that normal, everyday tasks are beneath you.
Yes, Miss Torres, yes. My mind is just so busy shaping young souls that I have no room left to remember where I put my wallet every day.
It says here,
Yeah?
His students' stories have not only won competitions, but have reshaped the way young people engage with storytelling in the digital age.
Reshaped, huh? Well, that's a pretty fancy word for helping kids write stuff.
Well, this article makes you sound like a pretty big deal. It's not going to be long before they'll be building statues in your honor.
I don't know, Jan. That's crazy to me, but if they do build... Tell them this. If they do build a statue of me in the future, make sure they've got me holding my keychain in my hand so I don't keep losing it over and over again. I'll know where to find it.
But Mr. Benson's impact evolved. Technology integrated into visual storytelling, and he began to teach his students how to use video now to craft their narratives, tell their stories, showing them how to capture the subtleties of a scene, how to use music to underscore emotion, or how to frame a shot to convey unspoken truths. Short films shot on smartphones, documentaries narrated with passion, stop-motion animation pieces that captured imaginations. Mr. Benson encouraged them to use editing software, learning, and to cut scenes together to blend soundtracks with the spoken word, to convey emotions through visual storytelling. Well, soon his students' short films were being shared widely over this little thing called YouTube, which would eventually become a big thing. A documentary created by one of his 11-year-old students about their small town gained national attention, praised for its heartfelt portrayal of community life. Another project, a series of, let's call them video diaries, explored family traditions. It became a powerful tool in bridging generational gaps. One kid created a film about his grandfather stitching together old family photos with voiceovers and some music. And suddenly, boom! Here comes the word viral. People cried watching it. Strangers, adults, even that one uncle who never cries, cried. Soon other students followed suit, sharing their stories about their families, their dreams, their fears, and all through the lens of a camera or a smartphone, I guess. The students weren't just learning how to write. They were learning how to communicate, how to connect.
I like your music. I like your story.
Now, a few years later, a nighttime screening was had at school for parents in the community, showcasing student films. Now, a fellow educator approached Mr. Benson that night.
Mr. Benson?
Eyes filled with admiration, which was good.
You know, your students speak like poets, but they film like directors. This is something kids the age you're teaching are not able to do. What is your secret?
How do you do that?
Or what do you do?
Mr. Benson chuckled, shaking his head.
Look, it's not about secrets. It's about getting them to see, but really see the world around them.
And he frowned, unconvinced.
But they must have learned it from somewhere. Most kids that age just aren't able yet to tell a story like that, in that way.
Mr. Benson said,
Well, they can. They just need permission to tell it their way.
Another parent at the event was teary-eyed after watching their daughter's film, told Mr. Benson,
You've given her something no one else could. You've shown her that it matters. Her life matters.
Mr. Benson smiled and responded with,
No, I've only shown them that their lives already matter, even at the age they're at.
Yet, beyond the applause, the accolades, the screenings, there were whispers from adults, colleagues, parents, and strangers who marveled at Mr. Benson's life, as though it were some kind of fairy tale.
You must have lived such a unique life to inspire our kids like this.
A parent said at a reception. He took a sip from his coffee, watching the steam curl into the air, to which he always wanted to respond by saying,
Nope, but I still put my shirt on inside out sometimes.
But instead, he'd take a sip of coffee and say,
No, not unique, just noticed. I just see it differently. Like this, I tell them, look at the way the first snowfall of the year feels electric. When the tremble in a voice when somebody's afraid to say what they really feel. You ever had that happen? Kids understand that. The way a child looks at the world as if every single moment was magical if you just pay attention.
The room quieted. He continued.
The way a child ties his shoe or her shoe with fierce concentration. That's a story. The way an elderly couple sits together in silence in the park or wherever, but their hands never let go. That's a story. See, it's all there, the very simple things, if you just take the time to see it and describe it well.
But Mr. Benson, that's the gift, isn't it? Not everyone sees it that way.
Mr. Benson's gaze fell down to the floor. His voice softened by the weight of all the years.
Yeah, that's the tragedy,
he whispered.
Everyone can, if they just slow down enough. Enough to look. Look around. Everyone, look around, please.
Fast forward a few decades, and Mr. Benson is now a 64-year-old educator. Being older meant more responsibilities and, let's face it, better snack options. At an educational seminar, an educational journal interviewer had Mr. Benson sit down with him and asked him a few questions. He started with this one.
Mr. Benson, if you could take it all back, the influence, the legacy, would you keep your storytelling, your communication lessons for yourself? They seem to be very personal.
The teacher looked around the auditorium. To the left, where breakout sessions were taking place, where other educators were discussing and integrating his methods. To the right, he looked where he could see his former students, now educators themselves,
Feel your life.
now passing on his lessons
Look around yourself.
and ideas and concepts to other people. His way of telling stories, his way of seeing stories, his once personal, very private magic. None of it belonged to him anymore. It belonged to the masses, to the students who had carried it forward, to the teachers who had adopted his techniques, to the generations that had shaped his wisdom. He smiled as he thought of an old interview he had once read, and it was a conversation between two great writers, Mark Twain, who was older at the time, and he had just joked about how he really felt like he wanted to hang Tom Sawyer, get rid of him, kill him off, because people kept saying, what's Tom Sawyer doing now that he's older? Older Tom Sawyer, that would make an interesting story. And he was being interviewed by Rudyard Kipling, young guy at the time. And he told Mark Twain the following. He said, Mark, Tom Sawyer isn't your property anymore. Sure, you created him, you wrote him, people enjoyed him, his stories, your stories. But now, Tom Sawyer belongs to us, the people, the masses. He's not yours. And so it was with Mr. Benson and his stories, with his lessons, with his life's work. His voice was steady when he finally answered the interviewer's question.
Mr. Benson, if you could take it all back, the influence, the legacy, would you keep your storytelling, your communication lessons for yourself? They seem to be very personal.
No,
He said, smiling softly.
it just isn't mine to take back anymore.
And as he spoke, he felt it. He felt his life shifting, dissipating. He felt it fading like a dream. Already told, and retold, and retold, and told again. It was no longer his to wake up from. Now, it was that same year Mr. Benson was retiring. Mr. Benson had grown older. His students had grown older. Some had become writers, others filmmakers. Nice, and some simply carried his lessons into their everyday conversations, weaving warmth and attention into the way they spoke to the world. Mr. Benson, now silver in his hair and lines around his eyes, sat in that classroom. His classroom. One final time. The desks were empty and the dry erase markers were all capped. As he sat there, he could sort of hear voices of past students still lingering in the air.
Mr. Benson, can you check my paper? How's this?
A former student, now a teacher, a colleague, himself, he stepped in and he was holding a book.
Mr. Benson, I kind of thought you should have this.
He said, setting it down on the desk. The room was quiet now except for the soft scratch of the wind slipping through the open window. The teacher picked it up, running his fingers across the cover. It was a collection of stories. His stories. But not the ones he had written, but the ones his students had told, had filmed, and had lived. Stories that stretched beyond his own hands, filled with characters and words he had never spoken, but could still feel. He felt that connection. Mr. Benson laughed, this quiet, kind of knowing sound, and he let out a breath, and one of those deep, like weary exhales that carried decades of memories with it.
You do realize this doesn't belong to me.
The younger man, once just a kid scribbling away in one of Mr. Benson's many classes, smiled.
I know. But Mr. Benson, we thought you'd like to see what you started.
The teacher leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. There was something in that moment, something very heavy and very light all at the same time. A realization wrapped in warmth. It was funny because Mr. Benson had spent his life giving away stories, teaching others to find their voices and to see the world more deeply.
I love this class.
Those voices had grown louder, richer. They had traveled farther than he could have ever imagined. His words lived in the way he wrote, in the way they spoke, in the way they looked at the world and noticed things, and took the time. He hadn't lost anything. He had gained everything. Mr. Benson chuckled softly, shaking his head as he flipped through the pages. He saw his own phrases, some of his own ideas in there, and lessons now that lived in the ink of others. A gust of wind slipped in through the window, ruffling the pages. It felt fitting. A good example. Mr. Benson gently closed the book and set it back on the desk. He stood up.
Well,
He said, reaching out for his coat.
guess it's time for the next one for me. The next story.
His former student, now a full-grown adult, nodded, stepping aside as Mr. Benson moved toward the door. And for the first time in a long time, he wasn't walking away from something. Mr. Benson was walking towards something.
Love this class.
So as I wrap up our episodes, I usually always ask, what did we learn today? Life's learning curve. What did we learn? What did I learn? What did Mr. Benson learn? Well, Mr. Benson was a guy. He has a future, even now, a new future, walking toward the stories yet to be told and the next voices waiting to be heard. Realizing all that, after all, the best stories never really belong to their authors, do they? They belong to the ones who carry them forward. So, we podcast. For Life's Learning Curve, I'm Paul Hart. Subscribe to Life's Learning Curve at lifeslearningcurve.org and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Podchaser.
Life's Learning Curve. Episode 91. Because of Mr. Benson, A Teacher's Farewell was put together by Sebastian T. Dog and Paul Hart. Find us just about everywhere podcasts are heard. Our website, lifeslearningcurve.org. While you're there, please subscribe. We'd love to have you aboard. This episode has imaginative voice recreations. To protect the privacy of others, some names have been changed and characters conflated. Life's Learning Curve. Episode 91. Because of Mr. Benson, A Teacher's Farewell. For more lifelong stories and realer than real experiences, catch us next time, right here on Life's Learning Curve. We're clear.